Welcome to the Speed League Fantasy Podcast. I'm Kelly Hansen. We're coming at you from Southern California. I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Berkman. It's Super Bowl Sunday, uh, the day after our latest Glendale Supercross round. I got away with one in my matchup with Whole Shot King. I actually thought watching the 450 main I was going to lose this fantasy matchup, but I made it by 11 points.
Yeah, and I actually finally Ken Roxon did something crazy, and he actually won the race. So I have Ken Roxon on my team, got a first out of him. But then, of course, Webb with a seventh. That was Kelly's lock of the week last week, and he didn't really perform where Kelly or I thought that he would. I think that Eli Tomac might have given him some of that Tomac sickness that he had last week because Webb was just letting people by like Tomac was. So it wasn't a great race for him, but I also have like the king of consistency this year, Ferrandis. I mean, this is his like third or fourth, sixth. So he's doing pretty good there. But yeah, me and Kelly both got the win. So it's always a good week when that happens.
Yeah. Okay. So Ken Roxon maxed out on fantasy points. He got won his heat race, main event whole shot, and then first place in the main event. So I mean, just all those added up together already, we're at I believe 35 points. And then I mean, if you happen to predict him dead on in first place, which would have been bold, a potential of 40 points for Ken Roxon in one round, which is pretty awesome. But go Kickstart Kenny.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. Kelly actually called it. He said that Ken Roxon was like looking really good, and I think it was a few weeks ago where you actually said that you wouldn't be surprised if he won a race this year, and like kind of in the fashion that we've been going, a different race winner pretty much every single week. So it was Kenny's turn to finally get that top spot. So I was super stoked to see that.
Do you think he can back it up though?
Yes, I do. I mean, like momentum is a like big thing in like any sport, and I think that especially Ken Roxon, now that he has this win under his belt, it'll kind of boost him to like keep on getting those good starts. Because I mean, as we've seen, starts this year are everything. I mean, like literally, it's like everyone is so close in speed that it seems like, I mean, like for instance, Heat One, he was like second hole shot. I think Malcolm actually beat him to the hole shot in the heat, but then he just, passed him and was gone. And then Plessinger got the hole shot, heat two, won. Kitchen, hole shot, won. I mean, it just seems like whoever gets that good start is just, I mean, going to win by like multiple seconds. It's really, really crazy how that's working
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. I mean, totally. I mean, this is kind of a cliche thing to say, but I mean, there really are reasons for it. The starts are hyper critical this year. And I mean, you could see it in anyone, or you can see it the most in Jet Lawrence, because Jet Lawrence, I would still say, is on the whole the fastest guy that is in the 450 class right now. But ninth place start this week, he managed to pull a podium out of it, but I mean, not fast enough to catch Ken Roxon and Jason Anderson that start well and are just multiple seconds ahead.
Yeah, and it honestly, I like hate to say this, but the races have been a little boring. I'm like, granted, we got a pretty exciting 250 main, um, but but it just seems like whoever gets that lead, I mean, no one's really like pushing them or like trying to pass them or anything like that. And there is a lot of parity as far as who's winning. I mean, like we've said, I mean, a different winner almost every week, but there's not really anyone challenging them on their week to win. I mean, it's just kind of whoever gets whole shot is out there. And like, I want to see some of that battling, passing back and forth, and sweaty
Yeah.
palms, white knuckles, and like we just really aren't getting any of that passing excitement this year.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for using the word parody, because we wouldn't be a Supercross broadcast without using the word parody. Everyone has to use the word parody this year. That's the hot take word. But yeah, I mean, about the race being kind of boring. This week I think we were actually deprived of some really good battles in both the 250 class and 450 class. Plessinger was I mean, has been on a tear. One is heat race. I mean, he's becoming a heat race monster. And he was on Ken Roxon and looked like he was going to try and give him a run for his money before he washed out the front. And then Kenny just ran away with it. And then the 250 class, which we'll talk about later. I mean, RJ, who, came back to full RJ this week, was chasing down Jordan Smith for the lead, and then Smith, wiped out on his own, and RJ just got to run away with it. So I was actually a little disappointed. We could have had some really good battles, but ended up just seeing some solid runaway performances.
Yeah, and Smith was fast this week. I mean, even after like a few of his crashes, I mean, he was pushing, almost got back Kitchen there, but then made another mistake. I mean, like those like top three guys of Hampshire, Kitchen, Smith. I mean, that's the best like three-way battle in like my opinion of the whole like season so far. It's like those guys have been so back and forth, dual red plates, and it's really exciting to see what's going to happen race to race with those guys.
Yeah, and they've got a big, I think, 5-week break now before we actually go back to seeing West. But yeah, Kitchen going to hang on to that red plate. But I mean, staying in the 450 class for just a minute, you brought up Webb. Yeah, Webb I had picked as a podium guy, and I think, I mean, me obviously, but no one, including Webb, would have really anticipated just the weird, sad race that he had, basically just letting people by again, like you said, like Tomac did last week.
Yeah, and I mean, I like have him on my team, and I predicted him third. And like he was like the podium lock, like we said, and he just didn't have any, I mean, like stamina like he normally has, or he wasn't pushing, passing those guys. And it was just really strange to me. Like it seems like, I mean, for instance, Tomac, like we said, ninth, second, 10th, fourth. And then Webb kind of bouncing around there also. And then Sexton, wins races. And then obviously he has a hurt hand. And then now he's back, in the pack. And it just seems like predictions this year are, all over the place. No one has got, three dead ons, it seems, all season. And it's just really hard to predict these top guys this year.
Well, I will tell you that I got 3 dead on predictions this week, and it was the reason why I won my matchup. I mean, I won 135 to 124 and ended up with a total of 18 prediction points. So without the prediction points I had, I wouldn't have won this week. So I mean, that's why, playing this game, um, why prediction points are so critical. And I mean, actually, makes the game more fun to play because, even if you got a bad team and somebody else has a good team, if you can predict the hell out of your guys, you've still got a shot at this. And they often will be what makes the difference between winning and losing a matchup. I mean, if we're just doing a normal regional race where we have 7 guys racing, you have 7 opportunities to get dead on, and that's 5-point bonuses each. That's 35 potential points that are on the table. Now, nobody's going to get all 7 of those dead on, but it's huge.
And I mean, you have Plessinger, you have Sexton, you have Barsha, and then rounding out your team is like someone you just pretty much picked up that was available, Shane McElrath, and it just so happened he was your number one scorer for your whole 450 team. And like, what are the chances of that?
How
It's like, who would
crazy
have
is
bet?
that? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's prediction points included, but yeah, I mean, McElrath with the LCQ win, and then I got him dead on 14th place. Scores more points than Aaron Plessinger, Chase Sexton, and Justin Barsha. But yeah, that's the power, and those, don't sleep on those lower down guys,
Speaking of like Barsha, I'm like, what is going on with him? Because it seems
dude,
like, like Tomac's
dude,
up and down, Sexton up and down, and Barsha has just been down. I mean, where's the
just down.
ups?
Yeah, I mean, his excuse that he's floated out there is bike setup stuff, but I mean, this is a big bike setup problem if that's what it is. I don't know. He's got issues right now, but yeah, I mean, I predicted Justin Barsha 11th, and he finished 18th this week. I mean, something happened to him we didn't see. He was running, I think 11th at one point I saw, but then he dropped back. But no, he's got serious issues, and Barsha has been my, I predict him 5th or 6th every single week guy for the last few seasons, and he's just dropped off. But so yeah, Barsha's got problems. But I mean, speaking more about problem. So I mean, we talked about Cooper Webb. I think Cooper Webb's going to bounce back. I think Cooper Webb had a bad week. Apparently, they were talking about on the broadcast. He for some reason has bad history at this venue for some reason. Maybe it's the dirt. Maybe it's the large format of the football stadium. Whatever it is, I think Webb is bouncing back. Eli Tomac, I have a hot take on. I don't
What's that,
believe
Kelly?
Tomac in his current form is a championship contender in the 450 class this year.
I could totally agree with you. I mean, he has got 2 seconds this year, which seems like, okay, someone getting second place is a championship contender. But I mean, like you said, I don't see him being up there with like the like top premier guys, and like seeing Jet, after Jet kind of crashed and almost crashed and lost a bunch of time. Jet just kind of caught Tomac and then passed him and left him, and it didn't even look like Tomac is really, I mean, like competitive this
Yeah.
year against Jet.
Yeah. And I was watching when I was watching the race and I saw Jet coming up on Tomac. I was like, come on, Eli, give him a fight. Let's see something here. And it really wasn't anything. And he just kind of waltzed by him.
And the opposite of like Webb is Webb hasn't really done too well at this track, but like Tomac, out of his like lifetime um average at this track was like place 1.8.
Great.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, like
Yeah.
Tomac loves
He's
this
excellent
track,
in
loves
Glendale.
this dirt. It's kind of like from the like sort of region where he's from. He's like from Colorado. This is in like Arizona, so it's like around the same, spot. And yeah, he like normally does great, and he did get fourth, which I mean is like respectable, but it's not where Tomac's used to being, and it like kind of
But he was in a
slow fourth.
position.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in a position where, I mean, he could have, I mean, old Tomac would have won this race. I mean,
Yeah.
he would have tracked down Anderson Rocks and won this race, but at minimum to keep a podium, and he let the podium slide. So yeah, I don't really see Tomac as, I mean, unless he flips something around completely, as being a competitor for this championship, because there's too many other people you can name that are competitors. And, Tomac is sort of famous for his on week, off week type of performance. And clearly he had a horrible off week last week. But I think this was an on week for Tomac. I mean, competitive for a podium, ended up fourth. There was nothing going wrong. He just didn't have it.
And the whole Tomac saga, I mean, like, think about it. It's like he was, that like premier guy for like so long, finally won some like championships. And like last year, he was in line to like win another championship, and then obviously got that terrible Achilles freak injury, didn't even crash. It was just kind of going over the face of the rhythm section. So he got that freak injury, and it cost him the championship. And I feel like if he would have won that championship, he would have pulled kind of like a Ryan Dungey style thing, where like he like would have retired on top, go and spend time with his family. But since he got hurt, didn't win the championship, he felt like, wow, it is so close. I'm going to come back another year and like try to fight for this championship. And now he's just, kind of not finishing where he wants to, you know, um, barely finishing top 10 in a few races. And I feel like now if he like retires after this season, it's like, okay, that was almost just a waste of my time, because he's not getting any more race wins to like get closer to those, top guys in like career stats. He's just kind of floating around the track, and it's been a disappointment. So, it's been rough, and it's kind of sad to see it go this way. It's almost like the way of Chad Reed. Not quite that bad, but, it's almost like Chad Reed stayed a few two mini seasons, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, Chad Reed's defense, the last few seasons, he knew he's not going to be competitive for a championship. He was just out there having fun, making main events, doing the thing. Tomac came into this season, having blown, not blown, but had his championship stolen from him last year, and just trying to get redemption, and it is not happening.
Yeah, it's pretty
So
sad.
look, maybe there will be a huge turnaround. I'd love to see it. But anyways, what were you going to say?
I mean, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's just sad. I mean, I like love Tomac. He's one of my favorite riders, and to see him kind of go out like this and kind of showing his age and some of those younger bucks, it's just a bummer. It's like so is life. Just kind of comes circle of life, and it's happening with like Tomac right now. So it's tough.
Yeah. So, with that being said, who do we think are our prime championship contenders this year? I think Jet has to be one of them. Just took over the red plate again. Jet's for sure in there, but who else you got?
Yeah, like Jet's for sure in there, and it's funny. I mean, after 6 races, Jet has only got 3 podiums. And I mean, like preseason, I would have thought that out of 6 races, he would for sure have like more than that. But still, regardless, I mean, he is probably still like the championship favorite. Sexton's always up there. I know that he had a down week, but he's dealing with that hand injury, so that happens.
Yeah.
Webb will turn it around. I know that like the top three of Lawrence, Sexton, Webb has kind of been our like common consensus here of like those are the top guys this year. But like Anderson's really been turning it on. And I know that people don't
I was
view
going to say,
him as, like a championship contender. But I mean, if Anderson keeps on doing what he's doing, I mean, he's been pretty freaking consistent. And like he could kind of do what he did when he won his last championship and not really win many races, but just kind of, be like lucky to the situation of, maybe some guys getting hurt, if like say that Sexton misses a few races or, like Lawrence misses a few races. I mean, Anderson might be there to pick up those scraps.
yeah. And I mean, as we know from the championship he did win, he got some injury help in order for that to happen. But yeah, I mean, he's absolutely on fire. If he could make just the smallest half step up and be just a little bit more and be able to compete with, I mean, even, Ken Roxon and be able to take a win instead of just a second place out of this, that would give me even more confidence. But he looks absolutely fantastic. And I mean, way better than where he was ranked preseason, because of a not great year last year. But Anderson looking super hot.
And if you actually look at points right
Um,
now, I mean, I know that he's in, fifth in points, but he's 1 point behind Webb, 2 points behind Plessinger. I mean, he's right there with those big guys. I mean,
yeah.
everyone's so close due to all the different race winners and everything. I mean, everyone is super close.
Totally. And yeah, Plessinger still up there too. He's lost the red plate now. I was so bummed to see him, after looking great in the heat race and then super good start just to wash out the front. And it looked like it took him literally, I mean, 15 seconds to get his bike going again after he picked it up out of the berm, which
That
was
is
a
what I was
bummer, but still salvaged a 10th.
Yeah, but it's like I actually saw that and like he like kind of tipped it over. Okay, it wasn't even really that like bad of a crash. And he like brought up his bike and was ready to go. And he sat there for like 5 extra seconds and let like 7 people go by before he
Yeah.
like took off again. And it looked like his like bike was on. He was like ready to go, but he was almost like, okay, they have the right of way. I don't want to like mess anyone up. And it's almost like, hey, dude, you're like fighting for this
Yeah.
championship and you're tipped over. You get up your bike and go, and freaking sorry, Derek Drake, that I might have, freaking pulled out in front of you, but it doesn't matter. I mean, like I wanted to see a little
Well,
more,
it's easy for
fire
us to
from him.
say it's it's easy for us to say sitting here, speaking from our offices, but that bowl where he crashed was, there was I think like a little triple jump coming into it, and when you've got a bunch of 450 bikes flying over that triple jump, which may have been a little bit blind and not see him there, you might be a little bit hesitant to just whip your bike right into the line of the path of travel. But no, the way that it looked, I totally agree, and I've got him on my team and I had him predicted fifth, and it's just dropping 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. And I'm like, go, 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 go. But, it is what it is. He rode great. I think he dropped all the way back to 18th or 19th and still ended up 10th. So a good ride, but a sad ride from Plessinger. Speaking of good rides that actually ended up good, my deeper prediction pick last week was Hunter Lawrence. And in fact, yours was too. And I believe we had a bet on who was going to get closer in predictions. You had him, what, 11th? And I had him
Yeah,
8th. Fifth
but
place for Hunter Lawrence.
I like can't even give that to you as a win. I mean, if he got, seventh or eighth, okay, you win. But I mean, he was still way off where you freaking predicted him too, Kel. You didn't even barely get any prediction points for that. So I mean, That's like hardly a
Okay, but
win.
our bet was basically,
I
are
don't
we going
know
to be
about that.
optimistic or pessimistic with him here? And I was on the optimistic side. And I mean, that's cheeseburger for me, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you were on like the right side, but it was just kind of how the race went. I mean, again, there is no way that he is going to keep on getting this high. I mean, it just so happened coincidentally. I mean, he beat Cooper Webb this week. I mean, like, how many times is like that going to happen? I just
Yeah,
don't
I don't
see it.
anticipate that normally happening, but he rode really good the whole night. Good in his heat, good in the main. I mean, I could definitely see him not consistently getting fifth, but I mean, consistently in the sixth to eighth range. And I mean, I could see him pulling out another, top five if things happen to go his way also.
I mean, as long as Cooper Webb, Chase Sexton, Aaron Plessinger all crash, he'll be right up top. Yeah, exactly.
Listen, somebody's always going to crash. You just got to be there, be opportunistic. But great ride for Hunter Lawrence, and yeah, if you've got him on your team, I mean, this is good news because I mean, it couldn't have been a worse start to the season. But he's figuring out. He's not figuring it out in the way that Jet is, but he's doing great. And I mean, yeah, to finish fifth place, a few races, we're what, 6 races into your rookie season. Good result, Hunter.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Anyone else in the 450s that
Okay.
you want to talk about before we move on to some 250s?
No, let's do 250s because this was a rad ending to this phase of the 250 West season. Very chaotic, actually, overall this night. I mean, we had 2 red flags, which is pretty uncommon. The Nate Thrasher is in rough shape. I haven't seen any news about what's going on with Thrasher, but I mean, yeah, did you watch that crash? It actually looked to me that when he crashed where he got hurt was actually not flipping over because he kind of landed where it was soft, even though that was very acrobatic. But when he went like chest into the handlebars casing the jump, it looked like it could be broken ribs or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. You know, it was just an unfortunate circumstance. Out there in the lead, crashing by yourself. But yeah, it looked like something was seriously wrong. You know, it's like sometimes they kind of stay down until they like kind of gain their breath back. But he didn't get up and had to get helped off. Red flag. So I don't see him even with this like 5 week break that the West has. I don't even know if he's going to be back in like 5 weeks. It looked like he definitely broke something and it's going to be a long term thing, which is such a bummer because he has had really bad luck this year. And he's one of those fast guys. I mean, he like seems like, he's like always there, but then has a mistake or something goes on. And yeah, it's just really unfortunate for a Thrasher.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, he's starting to become one of those people that are the injury-prone people. The Faulkner, the Cian Cerullo, the somebody like that has so much promise, but is just having issues with injuries. He had a really bad one last year, also. So yeah, he's questionable. At least we don't know what's going to happen. I hope it's something minimal enough that he can come back. But I kind of agree with you. It looked rough, and anytime they're red flagging the race to pull you off of the track, and you leave on the cart, that's not a great time.
Yeah, and like as far
But
as
yeah, that was one of two
fantasy,
red flags.
oh yeah, yeah, go ahead. Two red
Yeah,
flags.
the second red flag in the LCQ. Um, so yeah, it was kind of a crazy night in the 250 class. That LCQ was for the 250s was super chaotic. Silvera with his I believe first main event of the season went absolutely bulldozer to make it to that fourth place in the LCQ. I think he actually on the first lap of the LCQ was like 11th place. I went back and checked, and a really good ride, but with some questionable moves. But I mean, nothing that's too out of character for what you got to do in the LCQ to make it through.
And it's funny because a lot of, the like premier class stuff, or just like regular heats and mains, like it hasn't been too exciting. Like I said, some of the best, most exciting racing of the season has been in the LCQs. And I know that it's kind of guys that you've never heard of, and like no one necessarily on your fantasy team. But like seeing those guys giving all they have to like try to get that fourth spot, they're slamming like no one slams, and it's really, really exciting to actually watch the LCQ. And I feel like sometimes people just like don't even pay attention to the LCQ, but that's actually really, really good racing. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's guys racing for, a lot of people that don't even have sponsors. I mean, they're racing for a paycheck straight up in the LCQ. So whenever we go and, to a race in Anaheim or wherever it is, and I bring people that aren't necessarily Supercross fans, they don't watch it. I always tell them, look, watch this race and watch that battle for fourth place, because you will see guys put their life on the line in order to make it through here and be absolutely ruthless. So always a good time. But moving on to the main event. Start of the main event, awesome. Exactly what you want it to be. All three of the fast guys, the championship contenders, right up front. And I was sort of just sitting there rubbing my hands together, going, all right, now we get to see what's what. And the Smith going down was kind of a bummer, but we still kind of did see what was what. And I mean, with my boy Kitchen out front, I kind of expected him, to have the speed and be able to run away with it, but he didn't really make it happen. And I think if Smith hadn't have gone down, he would have finished third instead of second.
Yeah, I agree. And like normally Kitchen, I feel like is the guy who, might like ride over his head a little bit and then make those mistakes rather than Jordan Smith. But like once Jordan Smith went down, it was all just panic mode. Like fight or flight, just, balls to the walls. And, it like caused them to like make more mistakes. But I think Jordan was faster than like Kitchen this week. He just couldn't keep it on two wheels. But
Was
then,
he faster than Hampshire?
it was close. It, like, would have been close, but, I mean, Hampshire is just so smooth. I mean, like, the whole time, they, like, barely even, like, showed him. He was just kinda out there riding his race, and the, like, gap from, first to second, um, didn't really change much. I mean, Kitchen wasn't, like, catching him or anything like that, and, like, Hampshire is just, veteran, smooth, and he, like, really showed why he was the, preseason favorite this week.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, saying what you were saying about Smith, obviously his first crash, 100% his fault. But after that, I think he was riding really well. I mean, you said he was all balls to the wall, but I think he was just fast. He wasn't balls out. He wasn't Cameron McAdoo. He was keeping it together reasonably well. But the second incident with Kitchen, I don't think was his fault at all. I think that was just kind of a bad coincidence that those red cross flags were going on. Kitchen said after the race, he didn't know if he was going to be allowed to jump onto the tabletop or not. And Jordan Smith, didn't see it, was already committed. And I mean, honestly, that could have been a lot worse for both of them, which would have been bad for my team because I've got them both. But I mean, Smith just narrowly avoided hitting Kitchen right in the rear and, ended up in between lanes and then rode really strong after he got back up to make it back to fourth.
Yeah, and a guy too that was kind of minding his own business throughout the race. I mean, Joe Shimoda, he's someone who we, thought that okay was like going to be like getting podiums, and he did get a podium this week, but it was obviously because of the like Jordan Smith crash. I mean, do you
He got
definitely
handed
view,
one.
yeah, Shimoda as the fourth fastest guy now in the like 250 West? I mean, behind Hampshire, Kitchen, Smith, is it then Shimoda?
In terms of outright speed, I would say probably, but I mean, he's been, getting bad starts and, issues and this and that. So, I mean, do I anticipate he's going to be in the top four every week? Maybe not. Because, if he has issues, there's someone, like Marchbanks might beat him. Nate Thrasher, if he's, riding and healthy is definitely, honestly, I would say Thrasher is a stronger rider right now than Shimoda is, injury aside. But yeah, I don't know. Shimoda definitely, like you said, is sort of not living up to expectations, and he needs more in order to be a championship contender. He doesn't look like he's won this year.
And I really thought actually this was like going to be like Shimoda's year. He was going to be one of the sneaky picks to, maybe win several races or get, second in several races. But it just seems like the way that the season's gone. I mean, getting, like fourth A1, he got fourth, 22nd, fourth, third, which he should have got fourth again. Shoulda,
Yeah.
woulda, coulda. I mean, like racing crashes are like going to happen, and like some things are going to be handed to you. But yeah, it looks like, if you have Shimoda and you like predict him fourth every race, you would have a lot of prediction points. So, yeah, Shimoda is definitely the
Yeah.
fourth
Which that's good.
fastest, I'd say.
Yeah, that's great for fantasy. If you're Shimoda, that's not what you want to hear. But there's clearly a clean cut top three this year in Hampshire, Kitchen, and Smith.
And then you just happen
They're
to have
all
two
really
of those
great.
guys on your fantasy team.
Oh,
Lucky
it's
you.
good, dude. Smith in the whoops. He's the fastest guy in the whoops in the 250 class, hands down. He was. I think he blew by Kitchen in the whoops in the main event. That's where he got him. He's so fast in the whoops.
Yeah, yeah, and my 250 West, is not doing too well. I mean, I have Marchbanks, I have Oldenburg and Bourdon, and seeing my 250 West compared to yours, it's just night and day, and you could see why, you're obviously doing better than me, but definitely the weakness of my team is my West. So I can't wait for like East to come
But
soon
your
enough.
East is worse, isn't it?
No,
What was the deal with your East team?
well,
Oh,
like.
you just kind of got blown out by the first corner mayhem last week.
Yeah, the first corner mayhem kind of messed me up, but I have Deegan, which was my, like top pick
Okay.
in the like 250 class. I like probably could have had Kitchen. I like could have had a few of those guys, but I went with Deegan. But I have Deegan and then Martin, who like got hurt, so I subbed in Swole and like Cody Shock. So it's not anything to
Yeah.
write home about, but I'm trying to do what I
Yeah.
can, trying to work the waivers.
Well, your 250 West team did you well enough to win the matchup. But that's in large part because good old scrub and triples. Our friend John 250 West team. When your luckiest guy on your 250 West team is Phil Nicoletti, that's a bad week. He's got Thrasher, obviously injured, 0 points, didn't even make the main event, and then Ryder DiFrancesco, who was down at a certain point in the main event, actually was the one who was down and caused that Levi Kitchen, Jordan Smith incident in the main where Smith went down. So John with 14 points in the 250 West class and 82 total, even with both the Lawrence brothers and the Rockstar Husqvarna on his team. It was a bad week for John, coming off beating me, his first win of the season. So better luck next week, John, against the whole shot king. Okay. Anybody else you want to talk about 250 West before we talk about some predictions for next race?
No, let's move on to Arlington. It is not next week. There's a week off for everyone to heal up, get their boo boos all fixed. And then it's Arlington East. So my lock of the week, like coming off of like last race, he just, like coming out for blood. He has a chip on his shoulder, veteran rider in the class, and I think he's not going to take no for an answer. That is Austin Faulkner. Who else for the lock of like next or 2 weeks from now? No one in the 450s has barely even, earned that lock status after 6 weeks. It's been all over the place. I'm like really curious and excited to see if Faulkner comes out, and there's no first lap mishaps and all those big dogs are up there. If like Faulkner can stick it to Deegan, stick it to Anstey, and win another race. And if he doesn't win, I am saying that he's for sure getting on podium, lock it in. I would predict him second.
Okay, I picked the same guy for pretty much all the same reasons you did. That being said, I'll throw this out there. We look at him as being so strong in that lock, and like you said, the 450 class doesn't really have that clear lock because there's been so much parity in the 450 class. But the 450 class has 6 races under the belt now, and the 250 East class has 1. We see one good race out of Austin Faulkner, and it was a very, very good race. And that's why I'm also picking Faulkner at second place. But We'll see what happens. I hope he's turned on that veteran consistency quality and overcome his issues, but it could go downhill. But yeah, Faulkner, I mean, second place, and honestly, if he looks good enough earlier in the day, I may throw him at. I would maybe throw him as prediction one, because he kind of seems like to me he's fast enough that he's either going to be 1, 2, or on the floor.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. And the guy that I'm picking that is going to pull through, rise up, finish better than he has been finishing throughout the season, my rising star is going to be Malcolm Stewart. He had his best finish of the season so
Good
far,
week.
which, yeah, eighth place. I mean, this is kind of in the area that he thought that he was going to be getting, at the starting of the year. Obviously, the first few races was the polar opposite of like what he wanted. He was on the floor multiple times every week, but like since then, the past 3 weeks, he's got 10th, 11th, 8th. So I feel like, if he just builds off these last 3 weeks, kind of reels it in a little bit, maybe doesn't ride over his head. I think that he definitely can do what Hunter Lawrence did this week, and all of a sudden squeak out a fifth out of nowhere. I could see Malcolm Stewart, you know, being up there with those guys. I would actually say I'm going to call it he's going to get either seventh or eighth again next week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got that seventh spot. So look for Malcolm Stewart definitely in the top 10 for the majority of the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree. It's good, comfortable progress from Malcolm, and it's almost gives you more confidence than if he just randomly came out and got a fourth place, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, next week he's going to try and do that again, and he's going to huck it into the stands. But no, I mean, just some slow progress, and the dude just needs consistency. He just needs I'm a night where I'm finishing the main event and I haven't touched the dirt with my hands. And yeah, that's what he got in eighth place. And if he can just kind of recreate that or maybe try to improve a little bit, that's great for Malcolm. I'm my deeper pick for predictions is someone also for the 250 East class, going to be next race, Tom Vial. Tom Vial, in the 250 East class, it's really easy right now to try and pick someone who's a deep pick because half of the contenders in this class are deep picks right now. They're outside the top 10 in points just because of the carnage that happened last week. I didn't want to go Hayden Deegan or someone who's too obvious like that. But Tom Vial qualified fourth in the race in Detroit last week and was third in his heat race, looked very strong. I think, he was just totally subject to the chaos that happened in that corner. It just got taken out and ended up in the barrier. So if he could just make it through that first corner in a decent position, I think Tom Vial is going to be a really strong finisher. I'm going to say prediction fifth or sixth. I'll go fifth to be optimistic, but keep an eye on qualifying times and see what he looks like in the next race. And hopefully Tom Vial can have a good week.
I actually like that pick. I feel like he's someone that kind of slides under the radar sometimes, because he is relatively new to Supercross. He's not anyone's favorite rider per se, but I do like what I saw last year from him. And I think that, yeah, I mean, like you said, if he could just, further learn Supercross, improve, I mean, I think that he has a great chance to be in the top 5 range, like you said. Good pick, Kelly.
Definitely. All right. So we'll be out for the next week. Unfortunately, it's a sad day. No Supercross, but we'll be back for the next round in Arlington. All the matchup results we were talking about from our personal Founders League matchup, you can check out. We'll post that on our social media. If you're not following us in there, it's Speed League Fantasy. Instagram, Facebook. Make sure to follow us on there because, we're not only posting that kind of stuff, but updates with the site. We're always improving some features. If there's anything you want to see on the site, you can reach out to us and, we'll take it into consideration. And also, just posting some updates, when there's a stat correction or that kind of thing, someone gets penalized after the race and that's going to update your scores that you see in your fantasy league. You want to be aware of that. So follow us on there and we'll keep you abreast. But that's all we got. We'll see you next week or 2 weeks from now from Arlington. Peace out.
See you.